Chapter 3, Communicating for Success. This is an excellent chapter where we are going to dive into the key components and aspects of communicating day in and day out with your potential and current clients. Communication is all about the following learning objectives: how to communicate for success, practicing communication skills consistently, conducting the client consultation, handling communication barriers, following guidelines for workplace communications. All of this information is going to be customizable and different for the facility and the environment that you are working for or working into or even trying to create. But at the end of the day, we all communicate, and the better we are at that process, the more smoothly our lives will go. Communicating for success. Human relations and communication skills. In order to have a thriving clientele, you might as well commit to mastering the art of communication. If you are not effectively communicating, then you are going to struggle in this business. After all, we are selling services, and in order to sell those services, we have to be able to communicate with those potential clients. Effective human relations and communication skills. Having all of those things will build lasting relationships with your client, accelerate your personal growth, and promote a positive work environment. At the end of the day, no one wants to be around someone they can't properly communicate with. Think of a pet, and obviously I'm not comparing humans to pets, but think about the fact that, take a dog for example. A very well trained dog can communicate with you, and you can communicate with that lovely little pup in order to get the day-to-day job done. How does it feel when you're communicating something to an animal or a friend or a family or a loved one and your point's not coming across, or vice versa, their point's not coming across? It makes for unnecessary tension, frustration, and overall a bad experience. So communicating properly essentially elevates the experience in all areas of our life. In this particular video, obviously we're talking about clients, right? We're talking about people who are expecting a service, they're expecting a level of professionalism, and in exchange for that, they are providing you with your livelihood. So take the opportunity to learn to communicate effectively. We're only going to get through so much as far as the textbook chapter, but I implore you, take the time to go out there and consistently develop your communication skills. If something's working, use it. If something's not, make the necessary adjustments. So practice communication skills. Most of beauty professionals' achievements will depend on your ability to communicate successfully. That is communicating successfully with supervisors, and if you're not working for yourself, coworkers, clients, and various vendors who come into your business. My mother always taught me to treat the janitor just like I would treat the CEO. And at the end of the day, everyone in between those positions, no one is better than anyone else. So we want to make sure that we do the following activities. We're going to respond instead of reacting. We want to let someone hear, we want to hear someone, we want to let someone be heard, and we want to respond from a place of grace and kindness. Please avoid the eye for an eye mentality. You yelled at me, so I'm going to yell at you. You've got an attitude, so I'm going to have an attitude. Tit for tat doesn't work when it comes to communication. Even when things go wrong, someone has to be the bigger person. And because you're the one expecting to be paid, you might want to make sure it's you. Believe in yourself. It's easy to believe in yourself when you have a strong sense of self-worth, but believing in yourself makes you feel strong enough to handle any situation in a calm and helpful manner. Keep in your mind that you believe in what it is you're doing, what it is you're saying, and why. And if you're still getting rebuttals, if you're still not able to communicate effectively with someone, it might be time to fire that client. But ultimately, if you approach each situation with an attitude of gratitude that that client has invested themselves, whether that's financially or simply their time, making sure to communicate effectively with them is ultimately the best way to go. Always talk less and listen more. It's so important to listen more than you talk. When you're a good listener, you're fully focused on what other people are saying, and there is so much information in the details. Be attentive, Make sure that your attention is on the person in front of you, or on the phone, or in the letter that you're writing, or the social media post that you're posting. Be attentive and make sure that the person that is there to receive the message is actually receiving it. Remember, because you're talking less and listening more, you should be able to get your point across in a strong, effective way with less words and more intention. Lastly, take your temperature. Make sure that you know where you are physically and emotionally, and how that it affects you in communication. If you're extremely tired, that may not be the time to post on social media. If you're frustrated because your last client stood you up, when you answer the phone, remind yourself to drop that emotion and go into the new guest without holding the last guest's behavior against them. So always take your temperature and be fully able to commit to the person in front of you with an attitude of gratitude. Some golden rules for communication. These golden rules help build a successful beauty and wellness career. We're going to talk about these golden rules a little more in detail when we do a subsection to this chapter. I believe it's called, of course, it blanks out of my mind, service verbiage, when we talk specifically about the type of information and tips and tricks for each phase of communication. We're going to talk about those golden rules at that point. So remember that after this video, feel free to check out service verbiage. Golden rules. Project a professional demeanor at all times. Smile can be your best asset. Wear one every day. Be aware of your body language. For example, don't cross your arms when listening to clients or team members. Nod your head and acknowledge or acceptance of the points that they are making. Always remember to listen. Speak clearly and loudly enough for people to hear. Please don't mumble. And use correct English. Everyone has a different level and a different education background. So at the end of the day, be confident in what it is you do know and what you don't know. Nobody's perfect. And in the last slide, we talked about believing in ourselves. I know what my strengths and my weaknesses are. And one, I try to consistently develop them, because once you know a strength and a weakness, you need to step it up. But two, knowing my strengths and my weaknesses allow me to communicate and be confident in what I do know and what I don't know. So let's look at the importance of effective communication. I'm going to pause for a second and let you read them, and then I'm going to go and expand into them a little bit more, including what I think is the most important when it comes to effective communication. Okay, should have read through that pretty quickly there. Effective communication, by definition, is the act of successfully sharing information between two people or groups of people, so the information is understood. You communicate through words, voice inflections, facial expressions, body language, and visual tools. When you and your client are both communicating clearly about an upcoming service, your chances of pleasing that client will soar. So, remember I said I'm going to tell you what I think is the most important, and that was a trick. The reality of it is all of these are equally important, but some are going to be more important in different situations. When I'm on social media, my words are going to be top choice, right? I can't tell someone to go play in traffic and think that just because I typed it with a smile on my face, facial expressions, that it's going to come across okay or as a joke. But in front of someone, say the client intake process, my body language and facial expressions are going to be far more important than the words that I use. So I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to say a negative statement with positive facial expressions, and then I'm going to say a positive statement with negative facial expressions. Obviously, you're not in front of me, but I want you to hear the difference. So let's first go with positive statement, negative facial expressions. Hi, I'm so happy you're in today. Let's say negative statement with positive facial expression. Hi, I'm So happy you're in today, even though I would much rather be at home with my pets. Positive, negative statements, and these are gentle, positive, gentle, negative, very simple statements, but just listening back, it was very hard for me to convince you that I'm happy you're here while making a negative face. Even though you couldn't see my face, you could hear it in my inflections. You could see it for sure if you were standing in front of me. But even when I said something negative and I was smiling, my inflection was different. But that little tweak at the end kind of made you feel like, oh, maybe she's joking. You wouldn't be able to tell unless you were standing in front of me and allowed my facial expressions to reinforce that, yeah, I'm just kidding around. I'm so happy you're here. It is Saturday. I don't want to be out of bed. Life's good. It's not always what you say, it's sometimes how you say it, and vice versa. It's not sometimes how you say it, but what you say. When we're communicating, it's so important that we're giving our best in all of those golden rules, in all of those areas: words, inflection, facial expression, body language, and visual tools. We want to give our best so that the client can have the best experience. So right now I have an activity pulled up on the screen. In this recording, we're not going to do the actual activity. We're going to go right into the next slide. But screenshot this if you ever want to mock it and play it when we're in class. We're going to do charades so that we can do it. But while you're at home or you're just practicing or learning, feel free to actually play charades with a friend or a family member, but pretend like you're in the salon environment and just see how different, you know, communication styles, nonverbal, verbal, how you're able to get your point across so that the other person understands you. So, meeting and greeting new clients. What do you think about the fact that you have a person in front of you ready to come in, get a service, and give you their money so that they can exchange it for a wonderful facial, waxing, lash extensions? Well, to me, that's the most exciting place to be, because now I've got that client in my grasp. All I have to do is deliver the service and I am ready to get paid. Ultimately, I do what I do because I absolutely love to do, skincare, esthetician. I love to teach. I love this environment. But at the end of the day, we all do it because we have to make a living. It's human nature. So when we consider meeting and greeting new clients, it's important that we be polite, friendly, and inviting. Remember that the client is here for a service and they're paying for our expertise. We're going to always communicate professionally. We're going to be on time. We're going to be loyal. We're going to be, bright. We're going to have a positive attitude. We're going to have a positive mindset. And we're going to earn our clients' trust and loyalty by being consistent, showing up even when we don't want to, looking and feeling our best. So, the intake form. I'm going to pause here for just a second because I want you to actually take a look at the intake form. On the left-hand side of your screen, you should see client intake form, some bullet points, and the kind of information that you're gathering. So, sections of information that you're gathering. On the right side, a sample client intake form. Take a look at them, see where that information is coming in, and then let's go over them in just a second. Okay, client intake form. Every new and repeat client should be filling out or updating their client intake form. This can be called a client questionnaire, consultation card, or health history form. This form can be provided and is an extremely useful communication and business tool. A lot of information that you use to enhance your client experience can be gathered right here on this form. We're going to gather the client's contact information. It's not listed, but I also recommend having a emergency contact, products used, so the products they use at home. You can even step it up by having the products that you are going to use in each service, hair, skin, and nail care needs as an esthetician, as a waxer, as a cosmetologist, as a lash artist. All of those skills and all of the services that are available to you are being done to the body. Our body has hair, skin, nail, and so even though we don't take care of those things, I think it's important to gather some information, one, for referrals, two, in the future, if you do enhance your skills, your licensing, now you know that I can go through my last, 100 clients that I've seen and see who I can offer this new nail care service to, this new waxing service to, these new chemical peels, right? Gathering all that information initially is a great way to set yourself up for success business wise. From there, we have preferences, lifestyle medications, topical medication, and oral medication, known medical issues, any diseases or disorders that they have medically, skin or scalp diseases or disorders, and allergies or sensitivities. Having the client fill out this information is going to be so beneficial to you because you need to know what's safe and what's going to be effective for each and every client. And you know that by getting the information on their potential contraindications. So on the right side, you see a printed version of a consultation form. When I'm recording this, it's 2023, and in my personal opinion, digital consultation forms are the only way to go. So invest in a software or a system like MindBody, StyleSeat. There's a couple others that I can't think of in the moment, but invest in a system that will allow you to do digital forms that you can either send to your client in advance of the service or that they can use an iPad or a computer in your office to fill out. Having less paper waste is not only good for the planet, but it's good to keep you organized in your business. Then from there, you have release documents, legal documents that you may want, photo release documents, service record cards, general paperwork that will protect you in the event that something goes wrong. So, how to use the intake form, when, and how often. We're going to skip this because we're going to deal with this particular topic more when we go to service verbiage. Check in. So, what are the golden rules of communication? Do you remember them? Okay. Project a professional demeanor at all times. A smile is your best asset. Wear one every day. Be aware of your body language. Always remember that listening is the best relationship builder, so listen more than you speak. Speak clearly and loudly enough for people to hear. Do not mumble, and use correct English. Conducting the client consultation. So the client consultation is a discussion with the client that determines the needs and how to achieve those results. You cannot get anywhere with any client if you don't have a thorough client consultation. In the service verbiage video, we are going to go through the client consultation step by step and mock it and talk about how to do that client consultation, which is the point in which the client's standing in front of you in a way that services you and the client. To prepare for that consultation, you want to make sure you have your visual tools ready. You want to make sure you have pen and paper if needed for the intake form or digital intake form. You want to have a styling book if that's something that you're interested in, some type of pamphlet, literature, images, variety of styling options or available service options, portfolio of your work, and treatment brochures, rings, watches, swatch books, whatever it is you need to help convince that client and help confirm they are getting what it is they have formed in their mind. So, the consultation area, where the job is done. Place that we're going to invite the client to be comfortable, relaxed, and open to share all the information that we need to gather. So we want to make sure that we provide an environment that's private, quiet, calm, inviting, and allows the client to express themselves about things that may be personal and private so that we can do the absolute best job for them. By having a consistent consultation area, it's going to put you as the professional in the right mind frame to do what needs to be done and gather the information that's important to you making appropriate decisions for your client. So the 10-step consultation method per Milady is review, assess, Preferences, analyze, lifestyle, show and tell, reflective listening, recommending, lifestyle, hair, skin, and nail type, upsell, maintenance, repeat. So that 10 step, let's go back to one, gathers information, reviews information, physically analyzes the client, discusses the client's lifestyle. How do they live? Where do they live? What do they do? It's going to allow them to show and tell you what's going on and what they see. And it'll also allow you an opportunity to assess how the client feels and talks about themselves. It's going to allow you to make recommendations. It's going to allow you to understand how their lifestyle impacts the what they're experiencing. It's going to allow you to pre-upsell both services and products. This is a big one because as a service provider, the way to make more income is to sell products and services. So having an opportunity to lay the foundation for that upsell will boost that result. Maintenance and repeat. So talking about what they need to do to upkeep and maintenance based on what their goals are and how they're living, and then repeat. You're just going through this information, repeating it back to your client, and that's that. So we're definitely going to go over these 10-step consultation when we do our service verbiage call, because that is a part of the information and the questions that we're going to ask. So we're going to go into specific information when it comes to that. But just know, whatever method you use, having a regimented method that you use consistently is the best way to go. We're going to skip this activity. We're going to skip concluding the service because, again, that's a point in which service verbiage is going to come into play. All you're doing at the conclusion is making sure that you reflect what happened in the service, what you did, what you used, what you saw, what you felt, things that you want to try or things that you want the client to use. The ultimate goal, which is the final results for the client, them being able to see, feel, touch the difference in their skin or whatever it is that you performed on them, and then making sure that you're referring to the retail products and the rebooking of the next services. So let's recap the 10 steps of the general 10-step consultation. Review, assess, preferences, analyze, lifestyle, show and tell, recommend, upsell, maintenance, and repeat. If you do those 10 things consistently, or a combination of those 10 things in the same order each time, you're going to be able to give your client a better overall experience. So let's talk about our favorite thing to deal with. Just kidding, for my friends out there who are non-confrontational and do not like to put themselves in situations where they will be rejected, and I'm air quoting rejected because there's no such thing as true rejection. It's just going in a different direction. But for those that don't like that or are uncomfortable with that, go ahead and take an opportunity to settle into the fact that as a beauty professional across all industry, selling is a part of what we do. We've got to sell our clients on products, on services, and on ourselves and our ability to provide them what it is they're looking for. So some communication barriers that we're going to talk about are going to be things like tardiness, scheduling mishaps. I'll do a little bit about retailing and rebooking, but ultimately in our service verbiage, we're going to talk specifically about handling communication barriers and at what point in each step in a client interaction, what kind of rejections or barriers you may come across. So, tardiness. Tardy clients can affect your workflow. The pressure involved in making up for the lost time can be stressful. Rushing and feeling hurried can be stressful. And so overall, it's inconvenient for yourself, your client, and your remaining clients for the day. So it's important that your clients have clear boundaries and they understand that they need to be on time, if not early, within a range, 5 to 10 minutes max, for each appointment. Make sure that you have a set policy and procedure in place and that you follow it. Once you've broken the rule once, it's very easy to break it again. My general policy is everyone gets one, because life is gonna life. It's just what it is. When it begins to be a blatant disrespect of the policies and procedure, then I typically will have a conversation with the client. And from there, if it continues to happen, sometime firing a client is what needs to be done. Scheduling mishaps. This is going to happen. Your client is going to misschedule. You're going to misschedule. Again, the reason I always have a everyone gets one policy is because I pray that my clients are going to maintain the same for me. I've had to cancel clients because of scheduling mishaps on my end. I've had to cancel clients because I've gotten sick. Things happen, and so the grace that I show my clients, inevitably, I hope that when my time comes and when I fall short, that they show it to me. Is everyone going to be that way in understanding? Absolutely not. We let those clients go with love and light and we move on. But overall, when it comes to communication and barriers, regardless of the topic, never argue about who's right or wrong. Even though the client may be upset or you may be upset, detach from the situation. Remember that you are the professional and you must be the bigger person in the conversation. Redirect the conversation away from who is particularly at fault and make sure that the goal of every conversation is satisfying the needs of your business and your client. Resolving unhappy client problems. Life is going to life, like I said, and clients are unfortunately not always going to love you. We make mistakes, they make mistakes, things happen. At the end of the day, some guidelines to follow are try to find out why the client is truly unhappy. As for specifics, sometimes as humans we complain to complain and not necessarily complain about the issue at hand. And if we don't know what the actual issue is, we can't fix it. If possible, make necessary changes to make sure that the client is being serviced in a way that is comfortable for them. It's also important to understand that if a issue that the client has is a core piece of your business or your brand, they just may not be the client for you, and that's okay. If the problem can't be fixed, honestly and tactfully, explain why. I believe open communication begins with being honest and transparent. And anytime there's a policy, a procedure, or a rule that the client is not benefiting from and they're unhappy with, I think that explaining why from your perspective can be beneficial for the client because sometimes they don't see the other side of it. So we'll use the example of the client being tardy. They're 10-15 minutes late. I often explain to clients the reason the policy is that you can't be more than 5 minutes is because if I start your waxing service and your hair's a little longer than it needs to be, or your body's too warm, or the wax is not lifting, or anything happens, and that 5 minutes runs into the next client's 5 minutes, then my entire day is off. And although it may not seem like a lot for you, but you have booked a professional service from 1 to 2 p.m., and I have done what's necessary to make sure I am available and 100% focused on you. It wouldn't be fair to me, Miss Client, if you were 20 minutes late and I took that 20 minutes from a time slot from someone else. I wouldn't do it to you, and it's my hope that you would understand why I can't do it to someone else. Because of that, this is your second time being late. The recommendation is that we go ahead and reschedule your appointment, charge the fee that's appropriate based on the policy and the procedure, and then what I will do to kind of sweeten the deal is the next time you come in, I'll make sure I'll go ahead and give you a reminder or a second reminder via text the morning of the appointment, just to give you a little bit of a mental note to go ahead and leave a little bit earlier. How does that sound? Giving the client an opportunity, we're going to skip that, an opportunity to understand what's going on, understanding why, managing the differences, understanding the systems in place really goes a long way. And as long as you're genuine and kind, you listen more than you speak, and you assess why the client actually feels the way they do, and you work to set them up for success, then 9 times out of 10 you'll be okay. But at the end of the day, that 10th time, that just may be the situation where you have to fire the client, and that's okay too. So I want to talk about professionalism as a whole. It's important to make sure that you don't get too personal. Keep it professional. Your clients are not your friends. They're not your coach. They're not your counselor. They're not your doctor. They are your client, and that service appointment is about them. Never talk about things that are not neutral. Always bring everything back to the needs of the client in the ways that you can help them, and avoid gossip, religion, and politics. These are all general rules of thumb that will serve you well in your career. I'm not saying don't be friendly, but I'm saying that your clients are not your friends. So avoid talking about things in your own life that would be something you would tell a friend over a cocktail. Now, if they come to you with something like that, boyfriend, situation, girlfriend situation, parent situation, then listen actively, acknowledge how they feel and how that would make them feel, and then redirect the conversation back to the service at hand. So, following guidelines for workplace communication, this is more so in regards to your coworker. In general, you're going to treat everyone with respect, remain objective, be honest and sensitive, remain neutral to all situations, avoid gossip, seek help from someone you respect, and do not take things too personally. Keep your private life private. Just like your clients aren't your friend, your coworkers are also not your friends. Even though we can be friendly, they are other professionals seeking to service the client. So when we're in that work environment, we must keep the client satisfaction at the forefront of our minds. So, a few guidelines for communicating with managers or really anyone, because I think communication shouldn't be overall different because you're talking to the manager versus the client versus the cleaning lady. Remember, you treat the janitor like you treat the CEO. So always be a problem solver. Everyone tends to have moments to where they want to dump and just complain and complain and complain about problems and never really have a solution. So don't be disrespectful, but also try to maintain problem solving mentality as opposed to complaining mentality. Be open and honest with everyone, not disrespectful and not, snooty, but open and honest. Don't gossip or complain about colleagues, friends, family, coworkers, clients, especially not clients. If you gossip about clients in your environment now, I'm telling you, I'm begging you, stop. If a client ever hears this, it could be so damaging to your reputation that it's very hard to overcome. You do not want a client to ever say or feel that you gossip about your client. So if you're doing it, stop. And then be open to constructive criticism. No one's perfect, myself included. I think the best way to be successful is to continue to grow. Remember, progress, not perfection. And as long as you're growing and learning from the situations at hand, then you will always be doing better and upgrading your business and your life as a whole. So make sure to be open to constructive criticism, because if people have a problem solving mentality and they see it and are confident enough to share that with you from a genuine and loving place, then consider that feedback and try to grow. So we're going to skip communicating during an employee evaluation, because essentially what you're doing in an employee evaluation is getting that constructive feedback, talking about, what you did well, what you didn't do well, and where you can improve. As much of a go out there and do your own thing, develop your own business person that I am, I do think it's a good idea to work in another environment that is well established for 3 months, depending on how quickly you learn, up to a year, so that you can truly understand the dynamics in a workplace with other coworkers, managers, retail, all of the ins and outs of actually having a beauty business. That's just going to really accelerate your communication skills. So let's list 5 things to remember when communicating with your coworkers. Avoid gossip. Remain neutral, be honest and sensitive, seek help from someone you respect, and do not take things perfectly. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a bonus. Couple, keep your private life private, treat everyone with respect, and remain objective. So 8 things, 5 of which are paramount, the other 3 bonuses. But if you follow those 8 points of topic, then you really won't go wrong. So let's look at a little bit of a summary. Communication is the key to a service industry professional being successful. You will be asked to interact with other human beings from all walks of life on a daily basis. You must learn to effectively communicate with your clients, coworkers, and supervisors. And your overall appearance, facial expressions, and body language really do make up how your message comes across with a client. So that's just a case study. And then we are going to loop back to our learning objectives and kind of talk about how we were able to answer and kind of solve some of them. So, explain communicating for success. Remember, communicating for success is making sure that you are heard and that you hear effectively. Practice your communication skills. There are several different environments in which you will need to communicate with the client. Like I said, we will be doing a follow up to this called service verbiage, where we're going to break down the client consultation and the step by step and really the things that you should be talking about at different points of communication, conducting the client consultation. Again, we talked about the 10-step method. We talked about handling communication barriers, things like rejections and situations that are not comfortable to be in but will happen, and then following guidelines for workplace communication. If you keep all the things that you learned in this lesson in mind, they all boil down to one thing: listen and speak in a way that is of the highest benefit to your business, your brand, and your clients. If you have any questions about communicating for success, my name is Claire Reynolds. I'm the CEO at Boss Lady Beauty Academy here in San Antonio, Texas, and Waco, Texas, and I look forward to hearing about the fun ways you communicate effectively with your clients. Bye.